Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily, a closer look at the Parkland school shooter's developmental years.
Would you describe Nicholas as a bully?
No, he was so consumed with being liked and wanting people to like him.
Plus, a massive indictment of more than 24 people in Atlanta following a 4-year investigation into celebrity home invasions. And more of R. Kelly's accusers testify at his federal trial in Chicago, recounting their experiences with the disgraced R&B singer. But first,
this is the biggest case to hit this county, certainly in a century, maybe even more.
Jury selection winds down as Ohio attorneys prepare to present their case in the Pike County Massacre trial of George Wagner IV. Law&Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everybody to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. Day 2 of jury selections underway in the trial of George Wagner IV in Ohio's Pike County Massacre. Wagner's brother Jake and mother Angela have already pled guilty and said that the family planned the murders to get full custody of a daughter that he shared with Hannah Roden. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy tells us what we know about the jury so far.
Both the state and the defense used their 6 strikes to eliminate jurors that they didn't want. So the jury is made up of 9 women and 3 men. 6 alternates will also be chosen.
This is the biggest case to hit this county, certainly in a century, maybe even more.
Mark Weaver is a former deputy attorney general for the state of Ohio and has seen the interest the Roden and Gilley murders have drawn to an area that has a lot of challenges.
So this is a rural Appalachian, poor white county in southern part of Ohio. This case rocked the region when this happened. The notion of going in and killing everybody except the babies, including a couple of teenagers, really got people's attention.
But that's what prosecutors say happened on April 22nd, 2016. 8 members of the Roden and Gilley families murdered, many of them shot in the head as they slept, with children and babies by their sides. Forensics, such as ballistics and shoe print evidence, will be part of what the jury sees.
There is no perfect crime, and this crime is certainly not perfect. There will be enough evidence here that will certainly keep the jury engaged throughout this entire process.
Jurors will be taken to the 4 crime scenes involved in this case, and they will also visit the former home of the Wagners. They'll also get to see the Flying W farm, which is a sprawling horse farm owned by Jake and George Wagner's grandmother. That farm was searched several times. Opening statements are set for the day after Labor Day. For Law&Crime Daily, I'm Anjanette Levy.
All right, let's break this down. Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Mike Korobanix and co-host Terry Austin. It's great to have you both here. Terry, I'll start with you. As you heard from Anjanette, the jurors are going to visit these 4 properties involved with the crime. But is it really necessary for them to visit all of these areas, and how do you think that's going to impact them overall?
I actually don't think it's necessary, and as a matter of fact, I think it's going to have a huge impact. It will absolutely help the prosecution, and that's why they are doing it. And the defendant, I think, is going to be hurt by this. When you take those jurors out there, they are putting themselves in that crime scene, and they're having a bird's eye view. They're going to imagine what really happened when the crime took place, and they're going to the actual homes where they were shot. Remember, these folks were shot in the head while they were asleep, and they were sleeping next to very young people in those beds, little, like, toddlers. So, and as we heard, they were teenagers who were shot. I think the youngest one was 15 or 16. So this is a very gruesome crime. And for a fact, when those jurors go out there, they're going to feel it and they're going to relive it. And they are definitely going to help the prosecution as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it definitely paints a picture in their mind. Mike, so we're expecting Jake to testify, and it's part of this plea deal to avoid the death penalty for himself and the others that were involved. But what happens if the prosecution thinks that he's not being truthful on the stand?
Well, that would be a violation of the agreement, of a cooperation agreement, where he says he will be truthful. If that occurs, most likely what would happen is his guilty plea would remain, but he would be open to an open sentencing since he didn't live up to his obligation. So he could be looking at a maximum sentence. In addition, he could be charged with perjury.
And the death penalty might be taken off the table as part of that deal, which is the very thing that he was hoping to avoid for him and his family members. So it's clearly in his best interest, as it would be for everybody that takes a sort of deal, to testify truthfully when that time comes. We're going to switch over now to California, where testimony continues into its 7th week in the trial of father and son Paul and Ruben Flores as they're tried in the 1996 disappearance of Kristen Smart. The Cal Poly student went missing after a party around Memorial Day weekend 26 years ago. Witnesses say that Paul, who's charged with her murder, was the last person seen with Smart walking her home from the party. Paul's father, Ruben, is charged with accessory after the fact for allegedly helping hide the body by burying her in his backyard and later moving the remains. Jurors have now heard from a former roommate who lived in Ruben's house, as well as the contractor who built the home. Now, he was questioned over practices that were used in the 90s, including colored twine and the use of diesel fuel, seemingly to explain items that were found in the soil under Ruben's deck. The roommate testified that Ruben would go out of his way to avoid the area under the house and the deck, and asked him to avoid it as well. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, Atlanta officials announced the arrest of alleged gang members in a years-long investigation into celebrity home invasions. But first, federal jurors hear testimony from 2 more accusers who say singer R. Kelly sexually abused them as minors. And welcome back, everybody. Federal prosecutors rest after more accusers take the stand against disgraced R&B singer R. Kelly as he stands trial in federal court. This comes as the 55-year-old convicted sex offender stands trial in Illinois for 13 federal sex crimes charges. Now, back in 2008, Kelly was acquitted by a Cook County jury for creating a video of himself having sex with a 14-year-old girl. And at the time, the girl and her parents denied involvement and they didn't testify. But this time around, the alleged victim and her mother testified, saying that they lied out of fear for their safety. This week, jurors also heard from 2 more accusers who say that their experiences with the singer date back to the late 90s. One woman, using the pseudonym Pauline, testified that she was in love with Kelly at the age of 14. She also said that she was abused by Kelly hundreds of times. Another accuser, using only the name Tracy, told jurors Kelly ordered her into the bedroom and used force to sexually assault her dozens of times. Mike, we've heard this so many times already, and we know he's already been convicted in New York of illegal sex acts in a widely publicized trial. Do you think the jury can really set that aside and judge this case based purely on the facts that are being presented to them?
I think that's very difficult. I know jurors make that promise, and I believe they try as best they can, but his misdeeds and his abuse of young children has just been all over the world, quite frankly, and covered. And I also really wonder with his convictions why he would even go through this again in another trial where it's just going to be more and more drawing attention to all the wrongs he did. And it seems like the other conviction was very solid. So it's not going to be one of those instances, well, if I win that appeal, maybe I can win here. I just don't see the point in the sense of him going forward with this trial and not coming to a resolution where the victims don't have to testify.
Mike, that is a great question that I'm now going to ask Terry, because we know, Terry, that he's facing criminal sex charges in Illinois and Minnesota. So should he try to reach a global resolution of all of these charges, if that's even possible?
I definitely think he should try. Listen, he's got 10 counts of aggravated sexual assault in Illinois, Cook County, and he's got multiple allegations as far as prostitution is concerned in Hennepin County in Minnesota. And so I think it would behoove him to try to get some sort of global deal. As you mentioned, he had the New York case where he's serving 30 years. He's got this case now, the federal case in Illinois, the 2 state cases. Who knows, there might even be other cases that crop up. If I were his defense counsel, I would most definitely try to get a deal where he could serve all of his time out in federal prison and make sure that, you know, you tack on some additional time, obviously, for these other crimes. But to put these women through this again and to spend all of that money, I think, is a waste of time.
And he's been consistent in his defense, saying that he's completely innocent. These women are not telling the truth. We'll continue to follow it. We move over now to Ohio, where an attempted abduction is caught on video showing a young girl fighting for her life. But as Law&Crime Network Sierra Gillespie explains, this girl's reaction may have been what saved her life.
Terrifying video appears to show the attempted abduction of a 6-year-old girl who fought off the kidnapper just feet from her front door. It happened on August 23rd in Hamilton, Ohio, as 6-year-old Kennedy Nash stood outside her home. A doorbell camera captured the incident that happened in just seconds when a man Kennedy did not know approached her. Video shows the man walking up to Kennedy. He appears to reach toward her before walking off. He then turns back and grabs her arm. That's when Kennedy screams for help.
Highly disturbing stuff there. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, the defense highlights the gunman's middle school years in the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. Plus, more than 24 Atlanta gang members are behind bars after a string of celebrity home break-ins and burglaries. Welcome back. Atlanta area officials make a massive break in their investigation into a series of home invasions over the last 4 years. An indictment against more than 24 alleged gang members accused of targeting celebrities and other wealthy homeowners. Singer Mariah Carey, Real Housewives of Atlanta star Marlo Hampton, and Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley are among the victims named at the news conference by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. The 26 alleged gang members named in the indictment include members of a hybrid gang known as the Drug Rich Gang, made up of members from the Gangster Disciples and the Bloods and the Crips. Willis says they targeted people who showed their wealth on social media and used information that was posted online to their advantage to target them. The 220-count indictment includes crimes ranging from home invasions to kidnapping, armed robberies, and shootings. Willis says rap lyrics helped lead investigators to those involved, to which she gave some advice saying, quote, "Don't confess to crimes in rap lyrics if you don't want them to be used." Well, Terry, so the rap lyrics apparently helped the district attorney identify these suspects, but should she reveal that information? Don't you kind of want to keep that close? I mean, it could help in future investigations if someone is, I don't know, ill-advised and spreading that all out on social media.
Absolutely. I understand why she did a press conference. Obviously, she wants to tell everyone about the case and about the claims and the actions that she's bringing against these individuals. And it's a big case. It's a lot of people and it's involving celebrities. But if I had been that prosecutor, I basically would have not tipped my hat, because you don't want, as you said, Jesse, for the next group to be aware of that and not put that information in. Oftentimes in these songs, you do hear things about real life, not just rap songs, any kind of song. And so I think that saying she used that information is definitely going to hurt her at the end of the day. And look, the prosecution is obligated to share anything that they have against these individuals, because obviously they have to reveal their information that makes these individuals culpable. But you don't have to reveal that. That, I think, is your source and your method, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, talking about what you should reveal and not reveal, Mike, the alleged gang members targeted people using their social media accounts. So do you think there should be warnings by social media outlets about this practice, similar to the way there's warnings on the subway to watch your surroundings? I think there needs to be a warning out there for people. You don't have to put everything online.
Well, you put an ad out there enough that somebody's going to answer it. And I think that's one of the problems with social media, is people no longer use it really to share information. It seems like more of everybody wants to put out there that they're leading the perfect life and everything's perfect and nobody has any downtime and all my pictures on Instagram look great and that's the way I am and I'm successful. That has a sort of reaction by people who are trying to get their ways out of bad situations financially or things of that nature. And I think it really almost gives a roadmap to those who are into illegal activities of who should be their targets. And I think that's a major problem with it.
But Terry, rap lyrics, is that really a strong form of evidence at trial?
Well, I think they can try to use that. I don't know if the judge is going to let it in, but it's definitely reflecting on what these individuals are thinking, and it is in a way an admission. So even though it's an out-of-court statement and it could be considered hearsay, I do think that if it's considered an admission, it could get in under that exception. So no doubt about it, it's an interesting case, but who knows whether or not that information is going to get in. It definitely helped her to bring those charges, but whether or not she's able to use that during the trial is a whole nother question altogether.
Yeah, I just think they say it's subject to interpretation. We weren't really meaning what we were saying. I'd be curious to see how that ultimately plays out. Well, Netflix is facing more legal issues surrounding its series Inventing Anna. This comes after a lawsuit is filed by one of the real-life characters depicted in the show. Now, the show follows the story of Anna Delvey, whose real name is Anna Sorokin, scamming her way through New York City. It's actually based off of the true story of the fake German heiress who conned friends, banks, and businessmen, all in an attempt to fund her life as a wannabe socialite. Her former friend and Vanity Fair staffer, Rachel Deloche Williams, is suing the streaming service over defamatory statements she says were made in the show. In total, the lawsuit states 16 separate sets of statements were made about the former photo editor. One instance that Williams says is portrayed incorrectly is when she took a trip to Morocco with Delvey. In the show, she leaves the fake heiress after her credit card is declined, and Williams says in her own book about the relationship that she had already planned on leaving early from the trip. Her attorney says that scenes in the show left Williams exposed to online hate. After Delvey was found out and charged for her crimes, she was convicted in 2019. After just serving 4 years in prison, she was handed over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement as she fights deportation to Germany. When we come back, the defense's case continues in the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. Hear from the defendant's middle school counselor who gives a closer look at his early years. All right, welcome back, everybody. So jurors get a closer look at the defendant's emotional and academic issues when a middle school counselor testifies in the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. In February 2018, a then 19-year-old gunman opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. 17 people were killed and 17 more were injured. Last year, that gunman pleaded guilty to all counts, meaning it's now up to a Florida jury to decide whether he receives life in prison or the death penalty. As the defense enters week 2 of its case, the focus narrows in on the gunman's childhood experiences. On Tuesday, the defendant's middle school family counselor testified that he wasn't a bully, but instead was concerned with how other people viewed him. She says West Glades Middle School did not have the resources to assist with his developmental issues and emotional outbursts.
A part of the notes says that Nicholas stated that he doesn't want to go to West Glade Middle anymore because he believes that he's wasting other people's time, as he is always getting into trouble. He expressed that he believes, he expressed that he is basically behaving badly in hopes that it will lead him into withdrawing from the school and enrolling at another school.
Do you think West Glades was the appropriate educational environment for Nicholas?
Over time, it became clear that it was not the appropriate place for him.
Okay, why?
Because the resources that they had available, they applied every resource that they possibly could, and they just did not have everything to be able to meet his needs, all of the resources to meet his needs there.
So, Mike, this counselor's role was to provide support for the defendant, but now, did she actually help his defense team?
I think in a way she did, because I think it shows the frustration that there was never anything to support him as he was a child to deal with his mental health issues. And we're learning more and more that when people have those kind of issues as a child, they develop into bad situations in their adult life. And I think she was just being frank and honest, and I think that gives credibility to the defense.
Well, Terry, on cross-examination, the prosecutor tried to demonstrate that the defendant was actually a bully, and he was able to conform his behavior. He made a choice. Do you think the prosecution was successful there?
Actually, I think this was one of the best cross-examinations I've seen, and I think it's underrated at this point. Maybe people will recognize that listen, the defense is trying to show that this defendant had a horrible childhood, that he was subject to drugs when he was in utero, that no one gave him the help that he needed, that he was bullied himself. But what the prosecution did was cross-examine this counselor and pointed out all of the horrible things that the defendant did. So, for instance, he tore out a bathroom sink and he cursed out teachers. He threw things at the other students. He was extremely disruptive. And at one point, the prosecutor asked this counselor who was on the stand, listen, you said on direct that he was not a bully. Do you still think, based on all of this, that he was not a bully? And she basically admitted, you're right, he was a bully. And the prosecutor said, thank you. So I do think it was effective cross-examination, and I think it was a big point because that jury is looking at this case and thinking, well, he was a bully. He had a decent childhood with his adopted family. And so perhaps he should get the death penalty because, you know, obviously it was a horrific crime that occurred and there's no excuse for it under any circumstances.
Right.
So I think good job.
Well, I tell you, this is not an easy task for a jury, a lot for them to ultimately decide. Mike, Terry, thanks so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.